Obi-Wan Kenobi is certainly an iconic character from the Star Wars franchise, first appearing in the 1977 movie Star Wars, written and directed by George Lucas and portrayed by legendary English actor Sir Alec Guinness. The portrayal of the character even earned Alec Guinness an Academy Award nomination in the Best Supporting Actor category. Famously, Alec Guinness hated the cultural significance of playing Obi-Wan Kenobi. The actor felt that his body of work was far greater than this one role. Most of the time when he was recognised, many people referenced Star Wars to him. There is reportedly a story of Alec Guinness being approached by a young fan who wanted an autograph on some Star Wars memorabilia. This could just be an urban legend, but reportedly, the actor said, "I will only sign it if you promise not to watch those dreadful movies ever again," leading the child to start crying. It is also worth pointing out that Alec Guinness was the highest paid person who worked on Star Wars, whilst actors like Mark Hamill and Harrison Ford reportedly made the equivalent of $1,000 a week. Alec Guinness was able to demand a salary of $15,000 a week. Not only that, but he was able to sign a deal to receive 2% of the film's gross, with a further 0.5% after the film appeared to be doing so well in the cinemas. Alec Guinness's star power and legendary status as a serious actor may have contributed a great deal to the film's success. Had another actor been cast in the role, it may have had less of an impact across the wide audiences all over the world. But did you know that Alec Guinness was not the first choice for the role of the space wizard Obi-Wan Kenobi? George Lucas has stated many times that his first choice for an actor to play the character of Obi-Wan was the legendary Japanese actor Toshiro Mifune, best known for his collaboration with director Akira Kurosawa. George Lucas has made no secret that the work of Akira Kurosawa had a significant influence on the Star Wars franchise, as well as Lucas's interest in filmmaking as a whole. Toshiro Mifune was a legendary actor in his own right, being an icon of Japanese cinema and a long-time collaborator with director Akira Kurosawa. Lucas has stated that the work of Joseph Campbell, author of A Hero with a Thousand Faces, along with the movies of Akira Kurosawa, are the biggest influence on the Star Wars franchise. Many people will even point out the clear similarities between Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress and Star Wars itself. If you don't know, here is the premise for Akira Kurosawa's The Hidden Fortress. It tells the story of two peasants who agree to escort a man and a woman across enemy lines in return for gold, without knowing that he is a general and the woman is a princess. Now, some of these points are clearly lifted by George Lucas from The Hidden Fortress and inserted into the plot of Star Wars. Princess Yuki's journey in The Hidden Fortress mirrors the journey of Princess Leia in Star Wars. Yuki is the last surviving member of her clan, whereas Leia is the princess of the destroyed planet Alderaan. Rokurota, who is played by Toshiro Mifune, is the clear inspiration for Obi-Wan Kenobi. Rokuruto is a general who must escort the princess to safety, whereas Leia refers to Kenobi fighting as a general for her father during the Clone Wars. The story of The Hidden Fortress is told by the point of view of two peasants, and the point of view of the start of Star Wars is told from the two droids R2-D2 and C-3PO. Lucas has directly confirmed this himself, stating that the two droids in Star Wars are copies of these two peasant characters who feature in The Hidden Fortress. Whilst the work of Akira Kurosawa included films outside the iconography of samurai, such as Drunken Angel from 1948 and High and Low from 1963, Kurosawa is best known for the movies which contain samurai. Seven Samurai, released in 1954, and it also got an iconic Hollywood Western remake in The Magnificent Seven. The films in which actor Toshiro Mifune collaborated with Akira Kurosawa using the samurai motif have clearly had an influence on the Star Wars franchise. As mentioned already, The Hidden Fortress clearly inspired plot beats of the Star Wars film, whereas the iconography of Yojimbo, Throne of Blood and Seven Samurai clearly influenced George Lucas's space opera. It is certainly worth pointing out that George Lucas doesn't really look at the Star Wars franchise as sci-fi, but rather fantasy. There's kind of a reason that he keeps referring to the Jedi as space wizards, as well as using the term laser sword as opposed to lightsaber. The universal story of the first Star Wars movie follows a young farm boy who is taken in by a wizard who goes on an adventure to fight an evil empire and save the princess. Doesn't really sound like sci-fi to me. Star Wars seems to have more in common with The Lord of the Rings than it would Star Trek, for example. If we look at the Jedi Knights in general, they are clearly inspired by the samurai in the films of Akira Kurosawa. Jedi robes and the cloaks that they don in Star Wars look very similar to the kimono. If you glance at a shot of Toshiro Mifune and Yojimbo, for example, you could easily mistake him for a Jedi Knight rather than a samurai. And the lightsabers or laser swords are clearly references to the katana, the swords of the samurai that they use in combat. Even the look and design of Darth Vader feels like it's got more in common with samurai armor than that of a futuristic robot. Ralph McQuarrie, who was the concept artist for Star Wars, said George Lucas asked him to create a guy with a wide brim helmet like a headgear of a medieval samurai when creating the character Darth Vader. You could easily mistake the helmet of Darth Vader to be that of a samurai. Darth Vader's breathing mask could easily be mistaken for the mask of a samurai called a mempo. Whilst there are probably some other influences of the Darth Vader character design, other than the samurai armor, it is clear to see the influence that rubbed off on creating this character is certainly iconic to this day. People say that for a character to become iconic, they need to be recognizable simply by their silhouette, and I feel Darth Vader in particular can be recognized almost immediately because of this. And perhaps it is the enduring iconography of the samurai that led this character to becoming such an icon in the cinema landscape. Even more recently in the Star Wars Clone Wars series, as well as The Mandalorian, we see the Darksaber, which seems to be heavily influenced on a samurai's katana, more so than what we're traditionally used to in the lightsabers we see across all of the movies. Had Lucas not been such a fan of the movies of Akira Kurosawa, the franchise may have lacked something that made it special and appeal to audiences, and thus the movie could have failed and just been another boring sci-fi movie. There is far more to talk about in terms of the influence of Japanese cinema and the iconography of samurai and general Japanese design across the Star Wars movies, but I certainly would have liked to have seen a Star Wars where we had Toshiro Mifune play Obi-Wan Kenobi. Not to say that I didn't love the portrayal of, as well as Ewan McGregor playing the character in the prequels, as well as the Obi-Wan series on Disney+. Toshiro Mifune's daughter confirmed that he had been approached by George Lucas to play the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but he had turned down the role, citing at the time sci-fi movies still looked quite cheap as the effects were not as advanced and he had a lot of samurai pride. Even after turning down the role of Obi-Wan Kenobi, George Lucas reportedly then offered Toshiro Mifune the role of Darth Vader. His daughter, Mika, said, so there was talk of him playing Darth Vader as well, but his face would be covered, and in the end he turned down that role too. The casting of Toshiro Mifune as Obi-Wan certainly would have given some weight to the Star Wars movie going forward, but obviously the casting of Sir Alec Guinness in the iconic role also lifted the project and added some credibility to the film. Whilst Alec Guinness certainly portrayed the character well and then was followed by Ewan McGregor in the prequel movies, it would certainly have been intriguing to see what Toshiro Mifune could have done with the role of Jedi Master Obi-Wan Kenobi.